welcome. Welcome to another episode. Episode 5. Episode 5?
Yeah.
Exciting. As promised, we are going to be talking about mental health and thinking about our own experiences of mental health, thinking about ways we've managed and supported our own mental health and the difficulties of that with our neurodiversities. But first of all, we wanted to say Happy Pride Month! Yay! And given that it's June, we thought we'd speak a little bit about Pride Month and what it means to us. Yeah.
What does pride mean to you?
It's really interesting, isn't it? Because actually we speak about this a lot, the infiltration of corporations into...
Sounds like a rap. The infiltrations of corporations.
Stonewall was a riot, and it's a really interesting thing to think about that actually we have a march, a parade, to honour that, which has been taken up by corporations to promote inclusivity at a time when inclusivity is not being promoted. You know, sending love to my trans brothers and sisters and non-binary people. And now more than ever, we should be promoting LGBTQIA /queer rights. And I don't know, it's almost like wave a flag for the sake of waving a flag without really giving thought to what it means to be part of that society.
And also like the struggles that went through to even get here where we are. I was in Soho the other week and I was just like, this is straight town. Where are the gays? It was so weird. It was so weird. And I was like, that used to be like my grounds and I just didn't recognise it anymore. It's like the gays moved out and the straight people moved in because they felt safe, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, I could get slandered for what I'm saying, but it felt like when we used to go clubbing, a lot of straight women would go to gay clubs to feel safe around men because they knew they could just enjoy themselves. I remember going to Candy Bar. Remember Candy Bar?
I never went to Candy Bar.
Did you not go?
No.
It was the best.
So I came out quite early, but I didn't get onto the scene until quite late.
Fair. Well, Candy Bar was women's only, and men could only go in if they had, like, I think 2 or 3 friends that were female. So I think it was like 1 man to every 2 women, and they had to be together. So there weren't a lot of men that would go in there because it was a female bar. And they used to have a similar rule for Heaven back in the day. Like, if you looked a bit too straight, you just didn't get in.
Oh, I used to go to Heaven a lot.
Heaven was every Friday.
But there was only the 1 room for the lesbians, like, which was at the very, very top, which was always tiny in an absolute sweat box. Yeah.
Smallest room.
Yeah. And then downstairs was for everyone else.
Yeah. And then you had, like, your little rooms going off to the side. And there was a time in history where straight women didn't feel safe enough, so they would go to gay bars. And then what happened was straight men started to get into gay bars looking for straight women. And now Soho's just straight. Well, there are gay bars, but if you walk down the street, it's very straight. There's not many gay bars. So yeah, that was my experience. But I guess gay bars have spread throughout London now. It's not just in Soho, and it's kind of like east and a little bit more spread through London.
Do you not think it's something to do, though, with the commercialisation of that area?
Yeah, 100%.
It's something to do with increased rents. No longer can bars afford to be in that area. And as queer people have gained rights, although there's still a long way to go, no longer are they confined to seedy bars. You can have queer flags and all the flags out at any time. And I think
Yeah.
the commercialisation of that has pushed out
It's
the
kind of
traditional
diluted.
Yeah.
Yeah,
the gay
and
roles.
I kind of like the seedy buzz. I'm not gonna lie.
It's because you are seedy. Do you know what's quite topical for me, which I think is kind of hitting home a little bit around this Pride Month? There's been a couple of pop stars. People don't call them pop stars anymore, but musicians, artists who were dating women and who were queer icons, and then started dating men. And there's been some backlash, so they've said in the news. And I think it's really interesting, this concept of queerness and visibility, and actually what does it mean? I've been thinking about this a lot because I still firmly identify as queer. I would identify as pansexual. Gender isn't priority when thinking about people I want to date, but because I'm currently dating someone that's male-bodied, it makes me feel less visible than when I was dating people who were female-bodied. And it's really interesting thinking about, where do I fit in the community based on my outward expression of queerness through who I choose to date at that moment in time? Because I'm dating someone in a male body, does that make me any less queer today than when I was a year ago dating someone in a female body? Because I don't feel any different. I don't feel any less like that's my identity. But to others, am I no longer a flag waver? It's really interesting, and I think there were 2 pop stars recently who have had a similar experience.
Okay, that's interesting, because I remember when we were together, you felt like you weren't gay enough. Maybe it's coming from a place of, these people need to accept me and see me rather than just being. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I guess when I was like, I wasn't gay enough, that was more like, how can I pull more hot women? Because
no, why did you need? You had me. I am like,
I mean, that's
like
true.
there's a pyramid, and like I'm on the top, like on the star.
Fair, 100%. But let me come back to that point, that identity point. But you said maybe it's a me thing. But there are 2 famous people having the same experience, to a more or less degree. I think it's this collective experience of bi-invisibility.
True, because that works for me too. I think a lot of people forget that I still date and have dated men in the past. People see me as a lesbian, which is weird. I feel like I've got more feminine. I think I just like ebb and flow. I feel like maybe it's part of my cycle. Like there's some days where I'm more, maybe weeks that I'm more feminine, some where I'm more mass. I think I know where it comes from. When I feel confident, I'm more feminine. When I feel in a little bit less confident, a little bit more insecure, I'm more mass, because now I'm pretending to be, like, I have convinced myself the persona's there. Because even though if people look at me and be like, oh, I'm a STEM.
Do you want to explain the acronym, if you remember it, for people that don't know it?
No.
I probably get it wrong. Should I quickly Google it?
Well, a STEM to me is a masculine, feminine person. Yeah, pretty much.
In the context of lesbian slang, STEM refers to a person whose gender expression falls somewhere between a stud and a femme. Describes someone who exhibits both masculine and feminine traits, or someone whose presentation is fluid, sometimes leaning towards masculine and sometimes towards feminine.
So today I'm dressed like a little boy.
There you go.
So I'm a STEM. We've established this. But yeah, like I think it comes out in how I feel. So I notice when I'm on holiday, I would wear dresses and be a little bit more feminine. And I guess because I feel comfortable, confident, and radiant. But other times I'm like hoodie, jeans.
I think I've seen you once, and the whole time I've known you in a dress.
Special occasions.
Yeah.
My mum takes pictures every time she sees me in a dress. My dreams have come true.
Oh, it's like you back when she was dressing you up as a little girl in dresses.
Yeah, when I had no choice. When consent wasn't a thing.
I would definitely fall into the femme.
Yeah, 100%.
Thanks for that reassurance.
Like, even when you tried to, like, be a little bit androgynous, it just didn't work.
Yeah, I definitely would fall into the femme. Because when I'm feeling anxious or whatever, in fact, I become more femme than when I'm feeling relaxed and confident. When I'm feeling relaxed and confident, I can veer a bit more towards maskish. I tried for so long to conquer that persona, and it's just not who I am. I tried really hard. You know, I wore black jeans.
Basically, you just copied my style.
Well, I wore black jeans and plaid for like the whole time we dated, and I still didn't look any more mask. But yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? And I definitely associate with feeling femme. I am cisgendered, for sure. And same-sex attracted. In fact, so gender becomes less of an issue for me. It's much more for me around someone's conversation and depth. I find that the most attractive thing about someone. Or humour. Someone can laugh me into bed, or or the deep, really deep chats. I'm really here for deep chats.
Yeah, you've just taken my speech now.
But then, okay, so is that a neurodiversity thing? So,
well, yeah, possibly. It's quite likely because neurodivergent people don't like small talk. So a lot of the times you have really deep conversations with them for long periods of time. Some of the people that I've communicated, you can really get down to the core and know the person and bond in that way, and be comfortable and uncomfortable in that. And those people tend to be neurodivergent.
One of the things I have noticed, though, especially because I've become more aware of my ADHD, in the early days of dating, it can definitely burn really fast. Like, get to the heart of someone, and then all of a sudden, either myself or the other person becomes overwhelmed, because all of a sudden it's just been this intensity of, let me understand the core. Yeah. Let's get straight into the deep chats. And then all of a sudden it's like, whoa, this is too much. I would say the relationships then that have lasted have either recognised that as that period, or have just naturally taken a bit of a slower time to build up. But yeah, there is that too much too soon can be a thing.
Yeah, I get what you mean. But I also think, for me, maybe this is a autistic thing, but I get bored. Like, so I could have a conversation with someone for hours and know everything, but if I see them the next time and I have nothing, no substance, I'm done. Like, I'm just like, cool, well, that was a good chat.
What do you mean by substance?
Well, I guess, remember a few episodes back, I spoke about the nuggets of information. Like, if there are no more nuggets left, there's no more curiosity, there's no more bits of information, even if it's random bits of information, like something about space that's going to make my brain go, wow, or not even wow, but I need to know more, like a nugget of information that we can talk about, then yeah, like it's a bit dust.
You're harsh, hey?
It's not intentional.
One strike and you're out.
But it's not intentional.
Yeah.
And I think my my friends and my current partner recognizes that in me, and like when I'm dating other people, be like, okay, well, they didn't last long, did they? It's not a thing. Like, I don't make it a thing. It's not intentional, but it just happens because I'm like, okay, well, I'm bored now. I feel like I read all the pages in the book, and then there's nothing.
How much of that do you think is down to your neurodiversity?
I think a large chunk of it is. I'm very selective with people that I let in my life for a long time. And I guess I see it as value added. So if you don't add value in a way, and it doesn't necessarily mean needs to be like information, but something, and this sounds so transactional, but then it's kind of like, what's the point?
I'm laughing because I'm wondering how much of that is autism. Because I'm like puppy dog energy. I'm like, hi everyone, hi, you're going to be my friend. Which actually gets to a core wound of mine, which is being comfortable in my own skin, not worrying about what other people think. And it's taken me a long time, this fear of rejection. I have a huge fear of rejection. So I think there is a bit of, Labrador energy that comes from, in my childhood, all the way through school, never quite being good enough. I think I was the child that needed extra help with reading. So that meant in lunch times I had to go and have extra reading lessons. Back in the day when we had to copy from chalkboards.
That's the worst.
That was the worst. I was always the last child to copy. And then they'd always put the blackboard up and I hadn't finished copying down. And like, this is as fresh to me today. I could be in that classroom. And that feeling of not being able to be keeping up with everyone else in that respect. So those feelings of unworthiness have filtered into and I'm aware of them now as an adult, but it doesn't mean they're not there. So I think wanting my peers to like me is something I'm really, and not just peers, like partners, colleagues, because I'm also the eternal optimist. And I think that's very much linked to ADHD as well, being overly optimistic in all areas of my life, overly optimistic about how much I can get done in a specific time frame, overly optimistic about how many businesses I can launch, overly optimistic about anything. I sit on the side of optimism, and my dad does as well. Actually, we were talking about this the other day. But I wonder how much of that is linked to my ADHD.
Yeah. And now that you say that, I was basically you in my experiences at school, and maybe it is very linked with my autism because I have all of those fears, but I nip it in the bud before it even attacks me. So I reject first, so I don't get hurt. I control that environment because then psychologically, for me, it hurts less. If I'm dating someone and I have, if I feel very anxious or insecure and I feel like I'm going to be rejected in some sort of way, I'm more likely to break up with them because otherwise that rejection comes out and it's a big reaction for me. Like, they're not like most people have, oh yeah, like I lost my job and yeah, it's cool, I'll just find another one, or I got redundant, or I broke up with my boyfriend, or broke up with my girlfriend, or whatever. And yeah, they're a bit hurt and they just get on with life. Like, it debilitates me. So the best thing for me to do is control that. And I guess that's the autism, is like, I don't know, maybe it's not autism, maybe it's just how I did, like my coping mechanism is to reject first before getting rejected. I've spoken about this in therapy.
It's really interesting because there's two points that come out for me. I might have been dating for someone for 3 months. For most people, we're only dating for a few months. For me, I'm in bed crying for a whole weekend because that intense feeling of rejection, I do feel that really acutely. So
Yeah.
it feels like for me what might be a small thing for other people. Whereas also, if something massive happens, I can sit with that better in some ways because I'm quite good in a crisis when everything's a bit chaotic. Not that I find a sense of calm, but I can find a way through. So for me, it feels like the micro rejections, the tiny little rejections, almost feel disproportionately hurtful to the macro. The big things that should be really, really painful are really painful, but I often find a way through quicker than lots of tiny little fears of rejections.
Yeah, I heard that.
And the other thing I was going to say, so a lot of the work that I've been doing is around re-centering, because I've got this Labrador energy, figuring out what it is that I need. Talking about my need first. And then if that matches someone else's need, that's great. But if that doesn't, then it's not cutting someone off before they get to me, but it's saying, rather than waiting for someone else to say their need and me bending to whatever that need is, it's like, this is where I'm at. Can you meet me where I'm at? Rather than me trying to meet someone else where they're at because of all these feelings of unworthiness, which has come from previous people, education systems specifically, general people not understanding me in the past. I've gained so much from doing that.
Yeah, and I guess for me, I feel like I say what I need very easily. And I'm learning to meet in the middle. I'm learning to be a little bit less stubborn and headstrong. I anticipate the rejection first. And then when a rejection happens, it feels so big. I also have a delayed reaction sometimes. So I'm going to talk about when my dad passed. Actually, my granddad's the best example because I can remember it very clearly. I was okay. I planned his whole funeral, like I was by his side when he passed. And then I had to do a speech at the funeral and I completely broke down. And I think everyone thought I would break before because I was so close to him and didn't anticipate me to break down at the church when they called me up to speak about him. I just didn't. Like, I just was a wreck for the rest of the day and weeks after that. Yeah, and I remember that also happening I got made redundant. I remember the CEO flying over and of course, I analysed they were going to have to start making redundancies. And so when the CEO was like, look, we've had to let your department go, I was just like, cool, right, thank you, bye. Maybe 2-3 weeks later, I was a wreck. It's weird because it's so delayed because reality kicks in. Even though I knew months that was going to happen, I anticipated it. The reality kicks in and then your world is upside down.
That delayed response is really interesting because I definitely suffer with that. It may be anything dependent on the situation, anything from a day to months.
Yeah. And it's not just a sadness feeling, it could happen with happiness as well.
Yeah.
So some people will be like, oh my God, I'm so happy for you, blah, 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 da, da, da. And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, are you not happy? And I'm like, it's just what it is. So it's not just rejection, it happens with other emotions as well. It's like the brain can't process in that time the emotion that comes up because maybe there's too many signals or data points for it to translate, like there's noise, there's smiles, there's like you're translating facial expressions, what people are saying, and then now you have to be in touch with your emotions and how you feel about that, even though it's happening to you. And I guess it kicks in when you're on your own and you kind of go, oh yeah, that's really cool. Yeah.
I think that's so interesting because I mean that definitely happens for me. I wonder if that is specific to other neurodiverse people as well. And I haven't really heard anyone else talking about it in the context of happiness or other emotions. So, for instance, if I'm doing a talk, I won't particularly get nervous. But then if I'm doing the talk, like bang, it'll hit me like maybe halfway through the talk. All of a sudden, I'm getting sweaty and my heart's going and I'm having to control my breathing and I'm like, relax, relax, relax. Because to me, I haven't processed that it's a big deal. So I'm like, oh yeah, it's fine. It's not that big deal. And then I go and do it. And then I'm halfway through, I'm like, oh my God, this is a really big deal. You're right. It feels like definitely there's a delayed processing of emotion, specific emotions.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting.
And they're also amplified as well. You can't explain it to a neurotypical. Like if they've not experienced it, then they're just like, you're overreacting. I don't understand, like why are you so hurt by this, or like why are you having such a big emotion to this? Yeah. So, and I think that's where anxiety and depression comes in. So a lot of people tend to have anxiety or depression who are neurodivergent because of the big emotions. So my doctor tells me, because I called her up and I said, I'm really anxious. And she said, you have ADHD and autism. She goes, yeah, you would tend to suffer with that. And I'm like, great, thank you. My life. So yeah.
They're often comorbidities with neurodivergencies, or can, not necessarily often, but can be comorbidities with neurodivergency. So you can, for instance, have ADHD and anxiety, or autism and depression, or any combination
or all of them.
Yeah, or all of them. Yeah. Any like combination. yeah. It's not limited. You can go for as many as you like. I wonder, because there is this feeling of such big emotion that comes alongside neurodiversity and this experience of really feeling. I wonder, I guess, how well known that is. Because I hadn't necessarily even put together in my mind that I feel these really big emotions at specific times, happy and sad, but I hadn't then linked to a bigger feeling of mental health difficulties per se.
Yeah, and I guess, okay, so I kind of see it as, say if you have a sad day, everyone has a sad day, that sad day feels so much bigger than someone else's sad day if you're neurodivergent, right? Like that sadness feels so big that in retrospect it can span over time, which then leads into things like depression. You not want to go out, you probably don't want to be around people, you can't get out of bed, you're crying all the time. Like those big emotions can then become, or you start to show I've forgotten it.
What does the word sound like?
The depression. Like when you can see the word but you can't say the word? Yeah, okay.
And the worst thing for me is when you know the word and you can think of something that sounds like the word, but it's not quite the word.
What's annoying is when I say it begins with an S, I can see it, and then I try spelling it, and I spell it wrong because I'm dyslexic.
So it's really interesting, dyslexia, isn't it? So it's almost like it's a word that's just out of reach. It's like if the mind there has all of my words, all of a sudden this word has jumped over a wall that I can kind of see over, but it's just too high for me to get over because I can't quite get over the wall to get the word, even though I know the word is there and I know the word.
Yeah.
It's, yeah.
Or like, imagine if, I guess this is how it is for me. If there's like a load of words and then like you're playing Scrabble, no, not Scrabble, word search, right? So you have letters and that's what it looks like to me. And then you see the word and then it just keeps moving and then the words jumble up and then you catch a letter, but you say a different letter. So like you might mean 9 and say 6 in terms of numbers, or you say like you want to say E and you say O or something. Like you can see it, but it's not lining up. Yeah, that's what it's like for me. Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah, and my favourite thing is when I'm talking really quickly, not really think about what I'm saying, and then all of a sudden my brain just puts in a really abstract word that doesn't mean the thing that I'm talking about, completely changes the whole structure of the sentence. So people are like, what? And you're like, oh no, I didn't mean that. I didn't mean that word. And then you have to go back and try and think of this other word.
You're like, wait, that's not what I meant.
Yeah. Yeah. Dyslexia is so interesting. No amount of me reading written works that I've written will allow me to see the grammatical errors that I make. I need it to be read out to me in order to hear it. Because I'm writing and then I'm reading what I think I've written, but not what I've actually written.
Not what you've actually written.
Yeah, so having it read out means that I can hear what I've actually written and not what I think I've written.
Yeah. And that's where the screen reader saved my life. So I would write it and then get the screen reader to read it back to me and then make changes. And then, yeah. And that's why it takes so much longer to even write an email. Another thing is making up words because you know the word, but what comes out your mouth is a completely different word. It's not even in the English dictionary. I remember like we used to talk and you'd be like, is that a word?
You do this thing though where you say things with a lot of confidence, so much so that you get people to believe it when it's not a thing. I called you out so many times being Dom, that's not a thing. That's not real. You've just said it with confidence.
Well, Donald Trump does it.
Wow, yeah, that's a great point. That is a great point. So, one of my secret skills, is that a thing? Secret skills?
Well, it's no longer a secret.
Is that I am really good at making up words, alternative words to songs, because I can hear in my mind the tune and then think of words that kind of sound like these other words, and then all of a sudden I can make up really fun little ditties. I think that's a secret skill of mine.
Cool.
Yeah. Secret skill.
Secret skill.
Not many people have it. However, I think that comes from my dyslexia.
I think it's also an ADHD thing.
Do you think?
Yeah. Singing about everything.
Oh, I definitely do that.
I think I saw a post on Instagram. Music gets stuck in your head. We spoke about this.
We did speak about this. We did.
Yeah. And like, I was talking to a friend because she had Messy. And I'm so messy. And I'm so that song. And I said, yeah, that happens to me. And she goes, I've been singing it for the last 3 months. And I was just like, yeah, that happens to me. How I get over it is I just listen to the song. And so we just listened to it. And then, like, I was also just singing it the whole day. So she was like, it didn't work. And I was just like, I know.
I just really like the song.
Just got to kind of embrace it.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think that's definitely an ADHD thing.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely sing about everything. But the thing is, I'll sing sing about it when I'm happy. When I'm in a sad place.
No more singing.
There's no more singing. There's no joy.
There's no joy. Maybe you just sing when you're happy.
I do.
Yeah. I do too. I create the best music when I'm sad. And I sing about it when I'm happy. It's so weird. So when I'm sad, I'll listen to like all of the sad stuff.
What's your number one emo song to listen to?
Well, like a few months ago, and I get really obsessed with one artist for a long period of time, and then I move on to another artist. So I've just passed my Noah Khan phase, although I'm going to see him in July, so that's going to reignite. There's a song, I can't remember the song, but he talks about depression and self-harming and suicide. And it's a beautiful song, and if you listen to it, you probably wouldn't know he's talking about it. I think it's like maybe tell your mum or something like that, and he's basically telling a friend don't worry, I'm going to tell your mum. There'll be like sunnier days, but he really gets into it lyrically, and so I like songs where you can sing along to and has like a really good hook. However, if you actually listen to lyrics, you're like, damn, that's heavy. Yeah, so Noah Khan is very, very good.
I feel like there's a lot about mental health that we haven't touched on, just to bring it back to what we would actually talk about. So the boom or bust, the feelings of overwhelm versus burnout. Now, I don't know if that's specific mental health or whether that's neurodiversity, but I definitely have motivation days where I'm like, I'm gonna smash this, and other days where I feel like I'm procrastinating, but in fact it's likely overwhelm.
Yeah, I guess there's like a fine line, right? And I guess the link that comes with like neurodivergent, I can only really speak from my experiences, is when I feel overstimulated, then I feel overwhelmed. So if I have a big weekend, a lot of social time, a lot of noise, a lot of people's energies, I know, say if I say a big weekend, Friday or Saturday where it's really social, I know Sunday I'm going to crash. Or if I have a lot going on over a period of time, I wouldn't necessarily call it burnout, but I know I'm going to feel very overstimulated. I'm going to laugh because some people might find this weird, but I literally sit in my bathroom on the floor, close the door, no lights on, complete darkness. Or I have a bath in the dark and I'm able to regulate myself a lot quicker.
That's a really good idea.
No candle lights because the flickering, I don't know, like it just makes me feel weird. If I'm really overstimulated, even the flicking of a candle just makes me angry. So completely nothing and just sit in the bath. I mean, lucky for me, I can sit in the bath and still touch the other side, so I'm not going to drown or anything, or less likely to drown. But just sit in the bath or sit on the floor, and the floor's cold.
Yeah, they're really good ideas. I still think after all these years I'm still learning. I am quite social as a person. I like being around people, but it's a blessing and a curse. I like being around people, but then at the same time I feel really tired when I'm around people all the time. So I think for me, I have no contact weekends where I turn my phone off. I don't have any screens. And I mean, it's an absolute blessing that I can do this. I'm in a very fortunate position where I'm able to just, for a weekend, just be and not have anyone want anything from me and just be on my own.
Yeah.
And that gives me enough regulation to be able then to go back into the world for another month or 2 months.
Yeah, I remember you used to do it like every month or every like bi-monthly. And you'll come back like a butterfly.
Yeah. Because I need that alone time. Doesn't have to be all the time, but there does need to be like a duration of alone time where I don't feel like anyone needs anything from me. I turn off all screens. I can just be on my own to down-regulate my nervous system to then come back into the world at a level, which means I can be this chilled person that I am how that presents for me is I half close down. So I look like someone that maybe hasn't got any chat or just a little bit out of it. Or I might be a bit starey or
just like disengaged.
Or just a bit disassociated. That's how overwhelm presents for me.
Yeah.
And then when that starts to happen, I know I need to take myself off and just have a little alone time to reconfigure.
Yeah. And I guess for me, it presents, I get very spiky. That's the best way I can, like, very short, very spiky. Nothing has pissed me off, but I'm very pissed off for no reason. So what would be a normal engagement, or someone would say something or do something, it would just really irritate me. And I would just get very short and very, like, I guess, spiky. Yeah. Dissociated. It's dissociate, like not being in the room. I'm in the room, but I'm not in the room. I'm in the conversation, but I'm not there. And I would get people saying, "You okay? What's wrong with you? What's wrong? Has anything happened?" And I'm like, "No, nothing's happened." But it feels like I just need to go. Yeah, and it's really hard to identify it before it happens. That's what I struggle with. Is like the only time I go regulate is when I'm literally going, everything feels so much, and I'm like completely breaking down. And the idea of, I don't know, having a shower feels so big that I can't, and I feel so debilitated. And then I'm like, I feel like I'm really overwhelmed, or like, but it's very hard to identify that before you get to that point.
I feel it's almost like this static. I don't know how to describe it. I feel like that I'm starting to feel like this static in my mind, and that's that feeling of I need to take time out, because you can feel tired with it, but it's not tiredness. It's like this feeling of static of the mind. So that I know I need to go and I need to recalibrate.
I think I know what you mean, but I don't know how to describe it.
I quite often get that static if I've got a lot to do as well, not just with people, but with things. And that's one of the difficulties with procrastination, that it's the overwhelm of how big the task is. Even if the task is little, the feeling that the task is big, and then this static sets in because it's a feeling that the task is big.
Yeah, and real life example that happened to me this week. So I cancelled my gym membership and I wanted to move to a closer gym to my house. Very small task, just sign up, figure out what plan you want to pick and go with it. Simple, right? The idea of it, I was so debilitated that I just didn't. So I didn't go to the gym the whole weekend until today, because I just woke up and was like, no, I can't. Like, this is stupid. And yesterday was my regulation day. So I didn't do anything because I felt very overstimulated. So I decided to have a day off and not socialize. But just signing up to the gym and picking a plan was so hard. I just couldn't. So I didn't.
On the flip side of that, sometimes I get overexcited and sign up for all the stuff thinking I can do all the things, when in fact I have no moderation and absolutely can't do them. So, but I think, sometimes I get hyper excited and think I can do way more than I can.
Yeah.
So, and then when I realise I can't do it, then get overwhelmed with all the things that I've signed up to do.
Yeah. It's like, I need to be in this place and then this place and this place. And it's just like, actually, like, that's self-inflicted.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hear you. That happens. That happens. Me too. Yeah.
Thank you so much for listening. Bit more of a tangent than we expected, but I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've enjoyed some of our insights. Thanks so much for joining us, and we can't wait to see you next time.
See you next time.